Protests rock the Wisconsin city of Kenosha following the police-involved shooting of Jacob Blake. Blake's shooting, captured on cell phone video, appears to show officers following Blake to his car, then shooting him while his back is turned. Outrage over the shooting fuels night after night of unrest. Protesters and counter-protesters clash. This night ends with 2 dead and 1 injured. In the melee is 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse. The Illinois resident crossed state lines on August 25th, telling local media he was there to protect property. By daybreak, he was a wanted person. Video captured with a cell phone appears to show Rittenhouse running through the street as others race toward him. Some accuse him of being a shooter, then there are shots.
People are getting shot all around us. People are just getting shot everywhere, guys.
Video from a different angle of the confrontation shows the gunman firing multiple rounds as a crowd surrounds him. The gunman moves away, walking with his hands raised in what seems to be a surrender as police roll by. Rittenhouse makes his way home to Illinois that night while police try to make sense of what happened.
The radio traffic was non-stop, and there were people running all over the place.
Shot to death is 26-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum in a parking lot. Moments later, in a second clash that was caught on camera, Anthony Hubert is killed and Gage Grosskreutz is injured. Rittenhouse is charged with several felonies, including 2 counts of intentional homicide, attempted homicide, and possessing a deadly weapon while under 18. The gun charge in particular has been the source of heated exchanges between prosecutors and the defense.
As to 29593, that has to do with hunter certification. If an individual is out hunting, and that's what Mr. Binger was hanging his hat on. There is no allegation anywhere that my client was hunting on August 25th.
There's no dispute in this case that Kyle Rittenhouse armed himself with an AR-15 on August 25th, 2020 at the age of 17 years old. That's it. It's that simple. Now, if the defense wants to hide behind hunter safety regulations to try and excuse that behavior, then I'll simply quote back what Attorney Richards just said, which is, the defendant wasn't hunting.
At his bond hearing, Rittenhouse's lawyer argues that the teen acted in self-defense.
The state can bury their head in the sand, and in reality, who struck my client first? Who attacked my client first? We're not talking about demonstrators, we're talking about rioters who had ill intent in their heart.
Also at the hearing is Anthony Hubert's father.
Kyle Rittenhouse thinks he's above the law.
He wants the judge to keep Rittenhouse behind bars while he awaits trial.
He was an active shooter and he tried to flee. And my son lost his life protecting other people. He was a hero.
The case against Rittenhouse has attracted high-profile supporters, including Silver Spoon's actor Ricky Schroeder. He helps post the hefty $2 million bond that allows Rittenhouse to be free while he awaits trial. Disappointing news to a grieving father.
There's people out there raising money right now, making it their own fight, that it's about gun rights, and it's not about gun rights. My son was killed. Another man was killed. They didn't deserve to be killed.
Let's bring in our guest tonight, joining us in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Criminal defense attorney Joe Tamburino, also practices in Wisconsin. Have I described this appropriately? I mean, I know for me, it's such a divisive case, and it breaks down. I mean, liberals see Kyle Rittenhouse as the most evil person ever, and conservatives see him as somewhat of a hero. I mean, this is unbelievable, the way this one has broken down, and I can't imagine if you get any liberal or any conservative on the jury being convinced of the other side's argument.
I agree, Vinny, and thanks for having me on this evening. It does break down because what you have is 2 things. You have on the one side people who were protesting and or rioting, depending upon your point of view. And on the other side, you have Second Amendment rights people who wish to make sure that Mr. Rittenhouse or anyone who possesses a firearm is allowed to do so. And this is polarizing the nation and polarizing the Kenosha area, which is one of the reasons why last month the judge agreed to continue the trial so that both sides could get better prepared for trial.
Let's talk about Kenosha. My guess is they'll try this case in Kenosha. And if they do, who are the jurors there? Are they liberal? Are they conservative?
That's going to be very difficult to do. That's why they're probably going to do surveys or questionnaires to see if they could get a cross-section of society that is not biased, meaning that they haven't decided one way or another if Mr. Rittenhouse is guilty. Because Mr. Rittenhouse has raised the defense of self-defense. And the issue really will become, was he justified in using lethal force in defending himself?
Let me ask you, though, Joe, even breaking it down, like by finding out who they voted for president, to me, will indicate how they'll vote in the jury room. Could you see someone who's liberal say, oh, he's not guilty? Could you see someone who's conservative say, oh, he's guilty of double murder? Could you see that in this case? That I can't right now.
Right now, you're right. I don't think you could see it. But as time goes on, and like you said, when they start questioning, even getting down to the nitty gritty of their political beliefs, because as you pointed out, and I think you had former President Trump on the screen, even former President Trump became involved in this case from a Second Amendment rights point of view. So it's completely polarizing, but they're going to have to pick a jury. I mean, you know, we did it here in Minnesota with the Chauvin case, so they're going to have to do it.
Well, the difference in the Chauvin case was I couldn't find a guest who said Derek Chauvin was not guilty on my show, including I have 2 police officers on every night. All right, so that's 10 per week. Nobody, I mean, and this one is so different. I mean, I've never seen anything like it before here on Court TV. Let me ask you this other question. A lot of people look at this story this trial as it's about race somehow. And I look, the defendant's white, the 2 victims are white. Do you see this case at all about race?
No, it's more about politics than race. Here's why. It started off with a racial issue, and that's because of Jacob Blake getting shot by the police and is now paralyzed. But that's a separate issue. That is a different story. That's something entirely different than what's going on with Mr. Rittenhouse. With Mr. Rittenhouse, it really comes down to politics. You have the protesters on one side, and you have Mr. Rittenhouse who's saying, hey, I was trying to protect myself and property, and I was carrying my firearm, not illegally. That's what he's going to be arguing. And he was only 17 at the time, which is a different wrinkle because under Wisconsin law, if you commit a serious crime when you're 17, you could be tried as an adult.
All right, Joe Tamburino, thank you so much. Great information. We will be speaking again.
Thank you.
All right, folks.